Welcome to a special Can't Stop the Growth series, Win Your Mind, Win Your Market, powered by our friends at Chirp. I'm Chad Peterman, and around here, we believe growth starts from the inside out. In this series, we're zeroing in on the one thing that drives everything else, mindset. Because how you think determines how you lead, and how you lead determines how far you will go. We've partnered with the Chirp team, creators of the Win Your Mind, Win Your Market podcast, to bring you real conversations with leaders who've mastered their inner game and turned it into massive momentum. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, or just trying to get 1% better every day, this series is for you. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Win Your Mind, Win Your Market, the podcast where we dive deep into the mindset that drives business success. We believe that winning in business starts with winning in your mind. Every week, we bring you the biggest names in the home service space. Industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators who share their insights on how a winning mindset has shaped their journey to success. Get ready to explore the strategies, habits, and mental frameworks that can help you not only excel in your business, but dominate your market. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering the mental game of business. I'm Ryan Fenn with Justin Judd. Let's get started, because when you win your mind, you win your market. Hey everybody, Ryan here. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Win Your Mind, Win Your Market podcast. With me, as always, the purveyor of all wisdom pertaining to prosperity, the autocrat of automation, Justin Judd is with me today. And with us as well, very excited to have in the studio. Actually, this is cool because when Chad's brand came out from Dan Antonelli, this has been a couple of years now, right?
This will be our second year.
Yeah. When it came out, that's when I knew Dan Antonelli was the master of branding. And this was the one that was just like, for me, just like, oh, I love this brand. It's so cool. The colors, for whatever reason, just really grabbed my attention, and I've been following Chad ever since. So Chad is the owner of Hummingbird it's in Syracuse, New York, right? Very successful HVAC company. He has just an amazing story of perseverance and overcoming some pretty crazy trials in his life. We're going to dive into those things. But Chad, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we're excited.
Where did the Hummingbird come from?
So, it was Dan. So my last name was 24/7 HVAC. And the reason I named it that was I was working probably 15 years ago with a buddy of mine, and his head, installer service tech. And I was kind of learning the trade. I had a couple pieces of property, and one of my furnaces went, and I'd gotten some trouble before that. And my father was always like, you got to have a trade. And I'm just like, I was sitting in trouble. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I got to do something. I was like, I should go to a vocational school. I should go for HVAC, because I had fixed my furnace prior to that myself with YouTube. And I was like, oh, that was cool. That felt good to make that work when it wasn't. And I was like, I should do that. So I got out of the trouble I was in, and I ended up having my buddy come over, and he was like, you need a new furnace. So I was like, oh, I'll help you with it. So I was helping him removing it and stuff. And I was telling him I was going to go to BOCES, and he was like, you should just come work for me and Fred, and we'll train you and whatnot, and give me some free labor. And after I wouldn't let them carry nothing. I was just a beast. I just, catered to them immensely. And then I couldn't make it one day, and he's like, dude, I need you on this job. It's big. I'll pay you like $15 an hour. And I was like, man, I'd never really gotten, or I think it was $20 an hour. I'm like, I never really made $20 an hour. I think I was making 16 when I was driving the garbage truck for the city of Syracuse doing the garbage. And then I had my own business. And then after that, I'd never really had a job. So I was like, oh, $20 an hour. That's like 40 grand a year. That's awesome. So I was doing that. And then we had a job one night, and it was emergency. And they charged a really nice amount for it to get out there at 11 o'clock at night, open up the supply house, get everything. And that night I was like, I should make a business name and advertise 24/7 so I can get work after hours. So I came up with this name 24 SEVEN HVAC. And I just started marketing myself. And then I would bring these guys to my own calls and we would just split everything. They'd help me sell the furnace. We'd install it. We'd split it. And it just started snowballing to where the kid was like, look, dude, he was like, you're starting to get so much work. It's pumping into my work. He was like, you should find your own Fred. And Fred was like, Dom didn't really know how to do stuff. He was more the sales guy. And Fred was the knowledge. So I stuck to Fred like glue. And then I knew this kid, his brother, the guy whose company I work for, his brother was doing it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna bring your brother on. Me and him started doing it. And this kid taught me a lot of what to do. And, just like a lot of things I wanted to do when I worked with him, a lot of things I didn't want to do. And, a few years from there, we brought on a really high level service tech and I started really learning more service. And I learned a lot of metal and install from the new guy that I had, plus the service guy. And then, I had the vision that I always wanted to use this business to save people because I knew it was saving my life and saving my family's life. And it just snowballed to where I ended up, really got some lettered vans and started making it look real. And then COVID hit and we came out of COVID. Everyone had COVID money and nobody was saying yes. So I was able to start really hiring some guys and really starting to learn how to manage guys and the money and keep them moving and keep them going. And then I was following Gene Slade. I'll give him a plug. I was following Gene and Gene ended up training Amanda at Grasshopper. That brought me onto Amanda, which in turn showed me about the branding. And then Gene and his brother got into a fight. And, being the hustler that I am, I inboxed his brother. I'm like, yo, I'll pay you to teach my guys Zoom. Because it was like $50,000 to get them on site or so, $25,000. I didn't have that type of money. So I'm like, dude, I'll pay you if you want to just give me Zoom training on how to sell and get my guys better at selling. So I was doing that. And he rolled into, oh, you should check out Dan Antelli. Because I was like, I want to rebrand my business. I want wrap trucks. I want it to look better. And I hated the name 24/7, honestly, but I was afraid to change the name because I had acquired a bunch of real estate through these maybe 10 years of running my own business. I acquired a bunch of real estate. I had children, and my life was changing, obviously. And I'm just like, and I was a slave to the name 24/7. I didn't care if I was at a funeral, if I was at the altar getting married, if you called, I'm like, I got to go. Guys, we wouldn't eat without this. I gotta go. I jumped in the truck and I left and I slaved to that name forever. And then, it got harder and harder to really, stick to. Like I would try to talk people off the edge. It's 11 o'clock. I most likely ain't gonna have the part. I can come bring you a space heater. I'll be back into the learning. Or we got space heaters. Just come first thing in the morning. So I slowly was trying to backpedal out of it, And then I got to Dan, and I'm like, Dan, what do you think of this name? I created this name, this logo. I did it all myself. And
he's like, yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. He's like,
that's Dan for you.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, give me the truth. I love it cold and hard. I don't want to waste no time. Just give it to me raw. I'm very transparent. He's like, the name sucks. Doesn't even make sense. Yeah. Like, you got 2 letters and you got 2 numbers and then letters. That's never going to get hit on Google. And I'm like, all right, man. Well, I'm like, I really just, he was like, but then I was like, well, I like the name. I'm afraid to change it. He's like, no, we can work with it. And I told him my story and he painted this whole picture with like, well, you are 24/7 HVAC. Like that's what saved you. And now you've embodied this. And so you really are that brand. It's, you devote your life to it now. So we could still tell a story. And I'm like, cool. So me and my wife went to Europe for like August because I only had like 3 or 4 guys. So I sold like crazy. I booked them out for like 3 weeks. And then we went to Europe to spend time with our family, brought the phone and the laptop. And my wife, 6 hours ahead by lunchtime in Italy, we were answering the phone for Hummingbird 24/7 here and just booking and keeping the guys going. And when I was there, I had some time to think about it. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to hire Dan to rebrand 24/7 with the same name. So I made the payment, the down payment. I paid the extra $5,000 to like get it rushed because he was so booked out. I was like, I'll pay you an extra $5,000. I want this done by January. I want to roll out the new year. I got back. Victor Rancor, I found him through Amanda because he was always commenting on her stuff. I started inboxing him And he was like, dude, you should come to my Profit Rocket. Now that I think about it, dude, Victor was instrumental in giving me that ticket for free. It brought me to Vegas, maybe transformed everything for me, to be honest. Because he gave me that ticket. I got to go there and see all this stuff on a grand level of like people that were really doing it. And then I was sitting in through Dan's seminar, and he comes up with, I never met Dan yet. He comes up with this like 24/7 electric, 24/7 electric, and he's going over ways to brand, ways not to brand. And then he talks about the 24/7 electric. He's like, you know,
These
so I'm
guys
like,
suck.
yeah. Well, I ended up like sneaking up behind him after I tapped him on the shoulder, and I'm like, you can change my name. And I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm like, I can't use this name no more. I'm like, well, we got to burn it. We got to educate me how this is going to happen. Because I got like 12 years, 13 years of, using this name out here. And with Google and reviews, I had like 100 reviews, and I was nervous. And he was just like, we'll work it out. So then he presented us 6 names. We had bought a new house. My wife's old school Italian. Her parents come from Italy. They go back every year. They don't speak English in the house. They speak Italian, and my wife, it's her first language. So her sister came to America. She was born in Italy. She was like Vita's mom because my mother-in-law had to work. They just got to America. So Maria raised her, and unfortunately, Maria had passed away, and it was very sudden. She had an issue like diabetic or something. We're really unsure what happened, but she passed away, and it was tragic to us. It was devastating to us for a long time. It took years to really get over it. But my daughter, fast forward, is now in school, and we're in this one district, and one of her friends got caught with a vape in the bathroom. And, my wife freaked out, and she's never, we lived in a development, and out this side of the development was her mom's house, and out this side was her sister's. So, and, they're tight. So she's now saying, we got to get out of this district. I don't know what to do. And she's like, I'm praying to my sister. I'm really looking for some signs. I just don't know what to do. I'm scared to keep her in this district. I want out. And just coincidental, a friend comes to me, and I just bought a big dog, Mastiff. He's 120 pounds now. But my buddy comes to me. He's like, dude, he was like, there's this house in Beeville. I'm going to sell the guy's cars. The guy is sick. He's going to pass away. He has cancer, and he wants to sell this house. It's got a whole pole barn, 10 acres. It's in Baldwinville School District, which I tried to live there prior, and my wife just kept saying, no. When I found a house near her parents, she was like, this is the one, So we'd wasted like a year of looking for houses through Beeville, and nothing ever she liked. So I'm like, Al, that's an amazing house. I'm like, but my wife's never going to move 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And it's really close, but it just seemed so far away, Yeah. So I go, listen, put John in a group text with you and my wife, and let her figure this out. And so they're going back and forth. The grounds are beautiful. The guy was like, he had cancer. He had his own business. And he was just like now waiting to pass away, unfortunately. And he wanted to go to Florida, but he would just like hang out in his yard, take care of this garden he had, and all the beautiful flowers around it. And it was, totally private. So they're talking back and forth, and he sends my wife some pictures, and she's scrolling through them, and she comes to one picture, and he's got a huge wooden cross on the front of his house. And my wife was just like, oh, this is it. This is the house we got to go to.
Really?
And, like it's a sign from my sister. And but we brought my mother-in-law and father-in-law. We all went there. And before that, because my sister passed away, they had the whole synonymous thing with the birds and the cardinals. And just so happened, John had this whole beautiful bird watching thing in his backyard. So we go there, and my wife pretty much felt like it was a sign from her sister. We needed to get this house. And then, one, like the whole meme goes, one day you're in the club, next day you're watching birds. We're like sitting in this house and we're watching birds, and we got bird watchers on the window in the backyard. And it was magical, all these birds. And so fast forward to Dan now. He wanted to roll in my past and how HVAC saved me. So we came up with 6 names, and one of them was like persevere, like persevere, but persevere. Another one was Right Track Heating and Air. It was like, we're here to put my life back on track. We're here to put your system back on track. And there was a couple other ones in there. And number 6 was Hummingbird, because I did the questionnaire and I told him I loved Amanda's brand. I loved how it was like made no sense about heating and air, but the name really stuck. And, so I had said that, and, I would call my wife and be like, she'd be like, Right Track Heating and Air. And we got Fast Track gas stations around here. And I'm just like, it was like the locomotive guy coming around. I'm just like, I feel like it's a gas station. I'm just like, so then we liked another one and we kind of stuck on them. And then just one day I woke up and I was just like, I think I like Hummingbird. I'm like, start doing Hummingbird. She'd be like, Hummingbird Heating and Air. And I'm like, oh man, that stuff's in my brain. And I'm like, what about the birds? And like, it makes sense. And then it was like, started just feeling it and feeling the connection with my sister-in-law, and I always felt like, she was our higher power now, overlooking us and not making sure we were going to do right. And, she knows we got really good hearts and she's got her children here. So I would always kind of talk to her in times, just be like, I'll take care of everybody. Just guide me and show me the right answers and what to do. And it kind of, we ended up rolling out with Hummingbird. That was the whole thing behind it. And
Man,
fast forward 2 years later, that's pretty much how we picked Hummingbird. Yeah,
that's a really cool story, and it drives my like of the brand even further. I think it's really cool when there's like an actual story behind it. I wish I wish I personally had a cooler story about Chirp. I'll just start telling your story, but I'll change the bird to Chirp rather than Hummingbird. But no, it's that's a really cool story, and the brand, there's just something about it. Like you said, you say it and it's like Hummingbird Heating and Air. It's like, oh shoot, when you hit it. Like when we found Chirp, it was like, dude, that's what this business is going to be called. And you knew it too. And those other ones, you heard those, like, okay. You're trying to sell yourself on why you should have those brands. And it's funny how you were emotionally attached to 24, not just emotionally attached to 24/7, but also you have like all these like logistical or like administrative things you have to do to change the name, like right where you have to, I got real estate in that name and I got all this stuff. And it's funny how many times in business we hold ourselves back subconsciously based on these weird attachments we have to certain things, when it's like, man, is this good for the business or not? It's how we should be asking the question, right? But like there's so many things where like we emotionally are attached, and it's like I remember having a guy like in his business, he had this great software, this other software owner that I knew, and he was like, he was all burned out about it, but the software itself was really good. And I just remember thinking, like, why can't you just like forget about the baggage and take your product and move forward? And it was like he had all these emotional blocks. And I can tell, like, when you tell that story, it's like I know the frustration when you're like, I do not want to change my name because now I got to change that paperwork and I got to go to that government building and change that thing and do that. And it's like there's all these emotional attachments.
I had researched Dan for a long time, and then I had researched all the different brands that were coming up. And then once we did it, it was probably a 7-8 month process of Dan designing and getting it all done. We worked out maybe 4 or 6 months, and then March 5 months. And then, we changed it all, but then there was so much other stuff you had to do that, there was times where like I was just maxed out, like, breakdown point where I'm just like, oh, we have to do that. Oh, we have to do that. And then more things just keep flooding and flooding.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a seriously hard process, but I like a good challenge. So I was excited. My wife was very nervous to do it. She was kind of like, hesitant. And I was full board, like, no, we got to do it. I've been researching. I see all these companies around the country. They are exploding with the right brand. I think if I can get out there, I enjoy marketing and I enjoy kind of like talking. So I'm like, if I can just get out there and, hammer the marketing, let people know it's us. So we put billboards around town with our faces on them, so they knew it was us. I've been in this town. It's a small town, and I've definitely, been around. So a lot of people know me in this town. So I was like, all we got to do is get our faces up and we should be good. And we were around 88, I think, 900 that year that we signed with Dan and finished. And then 3 months later, we came out with our brand. So we spent 3 months as 24/7. End of March, we came out, and we closed out 2.3 that year. So we went from 888 to 2.3 in like, 8 months, 9 months.
Now that you've gone through this painful process And as with most painful processes, we come out the other end stronger. Our mindsets are
Oh yeah.
more bulletproof. What would you tell somebody who's facing this challenge of going, man, what do I do here? And they're kind of considering this entire shift in their life. I mean, people think it's just this simple, like, oh, we're just going to change our brand. It's like, no, I'm changing my identity, and so there's a
Yeah.
lot of emotion attached to it. What would
Yeah.
you tell somebody that's going through that?
I mean, at the end of the day, you got to be 100% committed. You got to stay disciplined, and you can't accept anything except success. You can't accept failure. Like at the end of the day, I don't think I can be beaten by anything. I have the mindset where I tell people a lot of times, like, you want me to be an astronaut? Show me the school, bring me there, get me around the right people, and I'll become an astronaut. Because I'm not going to stop until I get to go onto a spaceship with an astronaut and go to outer space. You tell me I need to do it, and it's in my mindset. You're just, you know what I mean? I am like Dana
Yep.
says, White, don't bet against me because I like it.
Yeah.
I like that challenge. Tell me I can't do it, and you are just feeding the fire of Chad.
That's
So
sweet.
you have to have that tenacious,
Yeah.
mentality of just like, I won't quit, and then perseverance will always win. You know what I mean? It's the failure that loses. It's the decision to quit. So it's like, it might not be this year. It might be 2 years. I did just talk to a guy who rebranded, and he kind of dropped down and lost business, and he's still kicking. So if he would have quit, he lost.
Yeah.
Maybe he sunk a little bit, but if he keeps going, maybe year 3 is where he explodes back to where he was and passes it. So it's about not quitting and staying motivated and disciplined. Is really what I think. Anybody can do it if you can tap into those, those feelings and emotions and put them to work for you.
Chad, you have a reputation of having an iron, bulletproof mindset. You do, I see your stuff on Facebook, and people know you as being, really just a really strong force in the industry. I want to ask you, and I kind of want to guide this over to have Justin kind of guide this conversation, because I know that it wasn't always this way. You didn't always have this mindset. And I think Justin's more equipped to handle this side of the conversation because him and you have similar backgrounds. But Justin, I'd like you to take it from here and ask Chad to go into, some of that background that's got him to the mindset he's at.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you talk about your mindset because I can relate to it so much. I think that there's something that happens when you go through the level of struggle that you and I have gone through, where when you can actually overcome it, it becomes a superpower.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way. You got to kill me if you want to beat me. Can you talk about that a little bit? I made the post on Facebook the other day. Obviously, I'm 100% sober. I've been through just about anything somebody could go through in life, and it was because of my own poor decisions. Let me make that clear. But I've overdosed 3 times. I've been on life support in ICU for 8 days. I had a stroke. I was on kidney dialysis, fought through it. So, and that's just the very short summary. Obviously, there's a lot more that happened in between those things, but can you talk to us a little bit about some of the stuff that you've been through and how that's kind of helped mold the mindset that you have today?
I came from a nice, tight Italian family, very close, tight-knit family. And then around 12, 13, my parents divorced. And it was kind of, it was a rough one. And I think they both had to figure out their lives. I don't really know how old they were, to be honest, at that day. I'd have to do the math. But now looking back at my age, I kind of understand if I was, unfortunately to divorce my wife at this age, I would have to figure out my new life. So, they kind of had to go about figure out their own lives. And, I kind of got left maybe unguided with a lot of emotional baggage from that. And I think I found family amongst my friends that I was maybe, partying with, casual partying, smoking weed, drinking, maybe eating mushrooms and stuff like that, or some lower level stuff. And I think I found family with these guys, and then it kind of led one thing into another, probably into my, late teens, maybe early 20s, I was using cocaine and things like that. And, it rolled, my lifestyle I was fully submerged in the streets, I guess. I was, drug dealing, drug selling, wholesale, retail, whatever I could do to make money, and then using as well, So in my town, I was known probably as not a good person. And, you know, um, my mindset, it's crazy though, because I have the same mindset when I was a bad person, was like I could have accomplished anything. And I tried to get to the top of what I was doing. Like I always tell people I was the best at being the worst. I was still the best. And I'm also the best at being the best. I'm in that business mindset on the streets.
Yeah.
And quick disclosure, that does not translate into being a good businessman. They are night and day. A lot of people are a good businessman. Plus, there's about one of them. But when you start to get to try to scale a business and do like real infrastructural stuff, that you could take what you have from the past. It means nothing. You need like scholar knowledge.
For sure.
Like, I'm a good businessman because I'm a hustler, and they are two of a total different. Yeah, I had that hunger and that mindset to win at losing. And I did. I won at losing. I was an amazing loser. And that rolled into me getting in trouble for cocaine. And I spent a year, maybe 14 months in jail. I turned 21 in a cell, locked in for the first 3 days. They lock you into the TV shop. So I turned 21, locked in a cell by myself. And I remember calling I had the option of doing like 8 months or 5 years probation. And I chose the 8 months. And then, I'm locked in there for 3 days. It's my 21st birthday. I remember calling my wife or my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, you need to go see my lawyer. I made a mistake. I want out of here. I'll do the 5-year probation. And she calls my lawyer on 3-way and he's like, dude, case closed, bro. You're done. And I'm like, so, the first 3 days were just awful.
Closed, bro.
Yeah. So I left the county like lockup and then went to like the county jail. And once I got there, I was out in public with other people. It slowly got a little bit easier, but I got in some fighting and stuff like that, so I got some extra time. But when I got out, I needed something to do, and I got my CDL, and I went and worked for a buddy of my father's driving a truck, and then that rolled me into getting into the city, driving the garbage truck, which in turn, and I was still a bit of a hustler, so I had a job, and I still liked to hustle. I would like buy and sell cars. I would do anything I could to make money. And I ended up saving up a couple $100,000 and I bought a nightclub in our downtown district, which was an awful mistake because I was inside a piece of real estate with my father and I was going to buy it. And instead I chose the nightclub and a new Escalade, which, I wanted that ego instead of that security. And my life kind of, shot up a little bit. I was making some money when I got out of jail, legally, illegally, saved it, bought this nightclub. And then, the nightclub kind of was like the descent to hell. I was 23 years old. You're making 50, 60,000 a month. This is back in 2003. And, I can't go in an Escalade. And I'm like, I felt like I was, superstar. And I was set. I got a nightclub and I didn't really know business. I just knew how to like market and promote. And I'm just like, I'm set for life. Good. I didn't need to I wasn't managing the business and whatnot. It was just, one thing led to another. 3 years later, it was like tailing out. And I picked up, addiction throughout that with like, using more cocaine, where before I went to jail, I was more of a hustler, maybe a social one time here and there once a week. But now I was in a nightclub setting and it was just like people were just bringing it. One thing led to another. I was eating the pain pills and doing the cocaine. And then, the pain pills dissipated and it kind of got me into Oxycontin, and then that dissipated. And then someone introduced the heroin. And before I knew it, I was, sniffing heroin and cocaine on a daily basis. Fortunately, was able to put the club up for sale and got a kid who wanted to buy it. It was a $300,000 sale, and I messed up because I was again young and on the influence of drugs. And at the table we were signing, he was like, "Can I give you 150 and owe you 150?" And I'm like, "All right, yeah, cool, that's great." My lawyer never put a clause in there like if he messed up. There was some late fees clauses, but there was never like, if you default, I take it back. And this kid went and renovated this whole nightclub. It would have been a score for me if I had if I was a little more focused, I can't even blame the lawyer, but at the end of the day, I should have been, So the contract, I got 150, and now I have an addiction. I have no job. I have nothing to do, and I'm walking away with 150,000. And, one thing led to another, and I ended up becoming an IV drug user with the heroin, because it was cheaper to like shoot one bag versus sniffing 4 or 5 bags a day. And then, the cocaine comes into smoking crack, or, you know what I mean? Just totally immerse myself into, heroin and cocaine. And that ran from maybe till I was about 26 till maybe 31 or something. My daughter's 16. She was born premature. She's the one that really gave me the strength. I would, everybody was trying to help me. I'd get clean here, clean there. Nothing really ever worked. But I had this monkey on my back that I had to feed it. We ended up using some of the money to get married. I bought her a ring, and then it was like $75 to the ring, the wedding, the honeymoon, all this stuff. And then
Did she know all this was going on the whole time?
Yeah.
And she just kind of saw something else in you, so she decided to stick by it?
We first dated in the 4th grade, and then we separated and then got back together in 11th grade. I'd always talked to her all the summers, and I always tried to be with her, but never. And then 11th grade, I kind of got her back. And, she rode this good high with me, and I think that's what kept her, hoping to, get me clean, to get me back to that high, because I think she did see the potential in me maybe more than I even saw. And
I think I've seen this movie. It's called Goodfellas, right?
Right? Yeah. I think maybe it would make a good script. It'd be great.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But I mean, there's so many incidences. 10 years of deep addiction. It was crazy. Maybe it's even longer than 10 years, probably 15 years. But I feel like, my 23 to 33 was really hardcore addiction. Addict wise.
Yeah.
But she ended up getting pregnant. The money dwindled away. I was still hustling and whatnot, still trying to get clean. And then she ended up getting pregnant, and I fought really hard to get clean. And I had maybe like 6 months clean or something. And then we had a real traumatic family incident where my niece and nephew, there was a fire in the house. My cousin's children who were with the mother, and the mother and her boyfriend were fucked up. And the house caught on fire, and 2 of the kids out of the 3, ended up not making it out, and it put us into an awful state. And so me and my wife went down to Florida with my cousins, and when we got back, we had a memorial or something was going on, and the kid that was in the house, his girlfriend died, the mother died, and their 2 children died. And this kid, Sean and Mia, these 2 made it out. And Mia was like, she's still in my life today. She's my niece. Sean was a kid that I knew from the streets, hustler.
Yeah.
A lot of questions came arise because he was moving vehicles and moving stuff out of the house before he got everybody out. So he was calling me, crying, and wanted to talk to me. So I went to meet him. And he was like, I remember he was smoking mint leaves and embalming fluid. And he was like, what's your job of choice? And he's in the front seat, and he's like, tell him, trying to profess to me what happened. And I'm like, oh, I used to use heroin. And he handed me a bag like this.
Dang.
And I'm like, oh, man. And I took it and I put it away. And then a week later, my wife goes into premature labor, and my daughter's born at 25 weeks. And it was just all the trauma and whatnot. So we're in the hospital, and they're telling us all this crazy stuff. She's going to get rushed out. You ain't going to see her. We got to bring her to Crouch Hospital where they can take intensive babies. This weight's very, her weight was 1 pound, 9 ounces. And I remember leaving the hospital, and I just went right to my house. I knew where the bag was. And then I just started self-medicating again. My wife stayed in the hospital with my daughter for 72 days. When she came home, she was on a heart monitor and oxygen, and her heart would stop beating, so you'd have to stimulate her. And my wife was just frantic, and we couldn't have nobody in the house with us. So I self-medicated, and I just handled it. I would feed her. I would stay up all night. Her heart would stop. I'd stimulate her. Her heart would come back on. And I was trying to become a nurse all while doing that. So I would I would feed her, get her all ready, change her, and then I'm like, all right, Vita, I'm going to this college courses at OCC to take some classes, and I'm using heroin in the bathroom while I'm like back in class, and I'm IV using it, and then I'm in class one day, and we're learning like all the Perry words or like all the root words and like all these medical terms and what they mean. And I remember the lady said something about when you get your license for, and I was like, I raised my hand. I was like, "Can you have a felony to get your medical license when you want to be a nurse?"
Asking
She's
for
like,
a
"Oh, no."
friend. Asking for a
Yeah.
friend.
I stood up and I was like, I have a felony. I'm like, I can't do this. And I walked out, went back home, and I forget, it was maybe 1 year we were at the house, and I was, I just still hustling and still using drugs and doing what I got to do to survive, take care of my daughter. And then we go to the doctor. They took the heart monitor off. They took the oxygen off for my daughter. And my wife was like, thank you. And she left and went to her mom. And she was like, I'm out. I'm done. Now she had something from before. I don't think we had any kids. So she, fought to save me. And now she had this child. And she's like, piss off, bro. Figure your life out. I'm out. And she went and lived at her mom's. And I ended up fighting, and I got clean. I took Suboxone for like 3 or 4 days. I took some Xanax bars, and I slept through it. And this was maybe my 100th, 200th time trying to get clean. I don't know. It's nothing worked. And my wife, I remember sending some texts to her where I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, I'm done. And I remember just filling the syringe with, enough that I thought would maybe just, I don't even know if I was really trying to kill myself. Maybe I wanted sympathy, but I know I just, I took a shot, and I had been up for a couple of days too, and all of a sudden I remember they broke in my house and woke me up, and she thought I, maybe died or something. And she's like, you're coming to my mom's with me. You're out of here. You're coming to my mom's. Brought me to her mom's. And that's where I started. I took the Suboxones and I took the Xanaxes, and I slept. And I slept for like 3 days. I remember waking up, and my wife was at work. Are you at work? My wife was not home. And my mother-in-law comes up, and she's like an Italian saint, and I'm just like, I don't feel good. I got to go. I want to leave. And I remember walking out of the bedroom, and she's like, don't leave, Chad, broken English. And I stopped, and I sat on her steps going to the first floor landing. It was like a split ranch. And I remember she started praying over me, choked up. But she started praying over me, and I felt this warmth come from her hands, dude. And I just was like, I turned around, I went upstairs, took a couple more Xanax, went to sleep. And I woke up 2 days later, I think, and I didn't feel sick no more. It was insane. And that was pretty much it. That was it. I never turned back after all that. I might have, I wasn't 100% bone sober, but I was never a heroin addict, cocaine addict. I was big in the hippie scene, Grateful Dead, Fish, a lot of that. So I would still go to concerts, occasionally hang out with friends. It's still a social party. But I feel like right when COVID hit, it locked me away from people. I realized what my mission was. And I was just like, it kind of took me out of being able to see people and enjoy that social environment. And that was it. I was like, we got this HVAC business. We got to dive in. I'd already had like 10 rentals, 10 doors. Right now we're up to 65 apartments. And that was it, man. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to use it. And I was doing HVAC throughout like the social partying time. And my daughter, maybe, even 7, 8, she was still of age. And, I was still actively socially using, and then I was like, I got to do something with this HVAC. We got the real estate. I got to figure it out. And we came out of COVID, and that was it. I was done. I totally, was sober after COVID, going into COVID. You know what did happen? I was at a buddy of mine's house, and they were all doing cocaine. And I decided to do a blunt with cocaine, and I used somebody's straw, and it gave me a panic attack because I thought maybe it had COVID. And I remember going back to my camp, because we were staying up in my camp, and I was like, never, ever. And it put me in this crazy panic. And I'm just like, I'm never doing this again, dude. I was thinking I had COVID, and I'm like, what am I doing? It just put me into this wild panic. And that was it, man. I never used drugs again.
So, Chad, I want to ask you a couple things, because being someone that's overcome addiction, it's fascinating to me. Everybody's story is different.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to like nail down what it really is that makes people finally decide to get sober and change.
Yeah.
You went through a lot. You went through obviously all the stuff that you went through, getting locked up, dealing drugs, but then you had your baby, and your baby had some issues.
Yeah.
Is there anything that like comes then your wife did the prayer to you, and it sounded like that was kind of like an important moment. Do you feel like it was a spiritual thing? And the reason I'm asking is because, like, for me, the external consequences never did it. Like, I know people I know people in prison right now that have lost their kids and that have lost their wife and that have had external consequence after external consequence and still don't get it for whatever reason. And so for me, it was an internal thing. I got sick of feeling like I was dying inside. And it got to the point where I was ready to change. So anyways, is there anything, do you feel like it was that prayer that your wife gave you? Is there anything that you can think of?
Mother-in-law.
Yeah,
Oh, it was the mother-in-law. Okay.
Mother-in-law definitely kept me from leaving that day, right? And that's what got me actively out of being a heroin addict, using an IV needle, shooting cocaine, shooting heroin. And I ended up getting a job 3 weeks later. And I bumped into an old friend of mine from high school who got me back into going to fish, the band. And as crazy as it seems, man, me and him were working this job doing a low voltage audio video. And we were down in this like hippie area of town, Ithaca, New York. And we were doing a job for a guy that owned a head shop. And he's like, my buddy's seen some stuff called salvia. And he was like, yo, you ever done salvia? And I'm like, no, what is it? He's like, it's like a psychedelic drug. It's like, it's wild. And this guy's like, listen, I have some real intense salvia. And here I used to go to fish in high school, eat mushrooms and acid and all this stuff. I was like, oh, wow, that's wild. He was like, you should try it. You should try it. And I was like, the guy gave us it as a tip. And I have this on film. I have the whole video.
I've done salvia, by the way, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
So the first time I did it, I went sideways, and all of a sudden I panicked, and I was nervous, and I came out of it, and he's like, dude, he was like, you got to relax. He was like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to shaman you. I'm going to keep you calm. Did it again, and I panicked, and all of a sudden he's like, no. He's like, you can relax. Remember, you got to let go. You got to let go. It's all on video. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, I can let go. And then I had this vision. I went through all this pain and trauma in my life, and my mother was floating right here with me. And he had a tapestry on his wall, and that became like the ground. And then all of a sudden I ended up standing in line at a carnival, and my mom was still there. And then I just got this feeling that like I need to let the baggage go. And it was about, and I opened my eyes, and I was like flapping my wings. I'm going like this, and I'm like, oh, my mom's here, and I'm talking, and I'm like, I came out of it, and I looked at him, and I go, I just found the answers to life. I kind of went like this. He was like, don't lose them, and I went like this, and I fell out, and I came back to it, and I was like, oh, dude, I'm carrying all this guilt from my parents and my childhood and all this different trauma that I've had, and I'm carrying it all and letting it weigh me down. And all I have to do is let it go like a bag of sand, because I have my own family now that I have to focus on. And that was really the thing that rewired my brain instantly. And then he was like, we should go back to fish, man. There's a fish concert. And then he got me into microdosing for a while. And I was microdosing, and I really felt like the microdosing rewired my brain. And I know some people have a hard time understanding it, dude. It's going to be out in the next, it's going to be a huge thing. I know a lot of people, do the ibogaine, and people do the DMT and the ayahuasca. I'm a huge component to believe that these are viable ways to rewire your brain, and at least to be able to have a different perspective to look at yourself. So that's the real thing And I wasn't sure if I was going to honestly tell you guys that. I was going to keep it a little more basic, but that I do attribute my reincarnation of life attributed to some psychedelic experience.
This has been anything but basic.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something that you said there that's really interesting. I've done ibogaine, by the way. You and I can have that conversation like off the podcast. But what you mentioned that experience brought you to was that you had to get rid of the guilt. So Ryan and I talk about it all the time. Shame is shame. If you believe in the universe, shame's the lowest vibrating frequency that there is in the universe. So authenticity's up here, shame's down here. The interesting thing about shame or guilt, whatever you want to call it, is it gets you the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. Let me explain it a little bit. Like when you're going through some of the stuff that we went through and you're feeling shame about it, it only makes you keep doing more of what you're trying to not do. It's a vicious cycle. You're attracting it, and you're feeling like shit about everything that you're doing. And because you're feeling like shit about everything you're doing, you want to numb those feelings of feeling like shit. So you keep doing what you don't want to do. The reason I think that's interesting is when I got sober, I went to a meeting and a guy was talking at that meeting and he said, listen, if any of you guys ever want to have a real chance at staying sober, you have to forgive yourself right here, right now, for everything. And he said, you can't sit and try and forgive yourself for one thing at a time, because you will always find something else to not forgive yourself for. He's like, you have got to forgive yourself as a whole. And I did it right then and there. And it was life-changing, dude, because I had been carrying this like load of shame for so long. And for whatever reason, I didn't realize that shame was keeping me trapped, and like actually a huge reason of why I kept doing the things that I wasn't wanting to do.
You know, I went from being a business owner in town and people kind of respecting me to now people looking at me as I was an addict. Yeah. Even the shame that haunted me. And a lot of times I attribute the way I market myself and my comeback to like when Facebook was first out and I was now healthier. I wasn't totally sober, but I was not a drug addict. I was more looked at as like, oh, he parties, but he's not a drug addict no more. But I used Facebook to really show so much about myself because I wanted this town and everybody in it to see that I wasn't an addict no more. And then I think that also fed my hunger to be like, I have to get back. You know, I was really in shape in my 20s, came out of jail, was shredded, no fat. And we got married at 30, I was 300 pounds. So I always tell people when I'm using drugs, I'm fat because I'm lazy. When I'm sober, you know I'm healthy. If I look healthy and I'm thin, you know I'm healthy. If you see me getting chunky, that's because my mindset's going. So I used like this fuel. I had to get all these things back that I had before. I had to get a business back. You know, I had to get my body back. I had to get all these things back. And I was going to use Facebook to really let people see me. And I just started being so exploiting myself on Facebook. So if people could see that I was not the old Chad no more. And a lot of times I say like, that's what made me such a good marketer, because I just want to show people like, this is the me now. And I'm never going to miss a day because I'm never going to let you think that I might be slipping. And I utilize Facebook to just be like, I'm here every morning. I'm still the same guy. It's never going to change. And, you know, and that's kind of fed me, and I'd probably be an addict to Facebook and sharing all my stuff.
That's so incredible. Justin, we talked about this yesterday. Every single person we've talked to and that we talk to in business, you can look at them and think, oh, he's always had it together from where they're at. And it's like every single one of them has a story. And it's like every time, like even like we had like Al Levy, if you know who Al Levy is, he's a beanpole, he's super thin. He's like, oh, I was overweight. I'm like, what? You were overweight at one point? It's like amazing, these stories. So the key takeaway for me has always been, it's like, no matter what, you can look at somebody who's successful, and I guarantee you they've been through something that's put them into this mindset, because man, nobody has ever just been like, oh, I've had it all together from day one. I've got it all figured out. Obviously some stories are more dramatic than others. I don't have as dramatic of a story as you, Chad, for sure. But like, we all have things that we could tell an hour-long story to easily to say, no, I was not this way, and now I am. And so if you're listening to this and you're in a situation where you don't think you don't think you can pull out of it, like, just know, like, everybody we talk to has done it and come out. I want to give a quick shout out to the three real heroes, the three angels of your life, Chad. Your mother-in-law, your wife, and your daughter are straight up angels from God that are like you don't deserve them in your life, and they have been there. Like, it's just incredible. I would love to meet them. It's like so cool. Like, it sounds like your mother-in-law is like,
Her
straight up.
father-in-law took me in, and I didn't even consider that in-laws.
Yeah.
Fortunate enough that, like, my father-in-law.
I get to meet one of the angels. Hi.
I'm fortunate enough that my mother-in-law, I consider her a mom. She's just a second mom.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable enough. They took me in off the streets. They let me live there for a few years until I got it back together. She didn't want to go to the old house I owned, so we ended up getting an apartment near her parents, and I ended up starting to rent that house, and that's what got me into real estate. But they took me in and gave me, essentially, and I love my parents. My parents are still close. We're all still tight. We all celebrate holidays together. But my in-laws gave me my second family and gave me something back that I was missing, that I had when I was a child. And I'm fortunate. My father-in-law is like one of my best friends. My mother-in-law, no embarrassment around her. I had a really bad infection one time. My arm blew up from a needle. And I remember just going there and her hot packing it and squeezing this black, nasty stuff.
Like, what a saint, right? Like, I see this as like, God knew you had to go through certain trials, but he said, you know what, though? I'm gonna give you what you need to get through them. And these are part of that. And it's, to me, like, we all have to go through certain things. We look back and go, I had to go through that to get to where I'm at. But God, or, Justin will say the universe, I'll say God, puts those things in our lives that it's not necessarily just like, hey, it's not going to take the pain away, it's not going to fix it, but it's enough to get through to the other side so that you can endure the pain and get through to where you needed to be. And I think that's just amazing to hear that story. So
yeah, I think we all need a little pain to, like, build our internal strengths.
Oh yeah.
Or a lot.
And now, like,
Oh yeah.
I got kids. I have kids, and, like, we're not starving by any means.
Yeah.
I'm not giving my kids zero.
Right.
I'll be there for you. I'll show you what you can have.
They get lost.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to do these things. I'm gonna make sure that they earn it. If they ain't getting nothing for free, it's like, I'll create a little bit of pain in you guys. Like, my daughter's about to be 16. I'm like, I'm not buying you a car. She's like, I got like $4,000. I go, good. I'm not spending zero of my money on a car for you unless you have a job and you can pay your own insurance, and I'll help you with a car, and you're gonna owe me that money. I want it back. I ain't giving nothing for free. Nobody gave me nothing.
The interesting thing about pain and trials, Ryan, because you kind of mentioned, mine might not be as dramatic as your guys's. So, like, I would hear that all the time in group therapy. People would hear my story and they'd be like, oh man, like, there's no reason that I should be an addict. Like, I have not.
Everybody deals with
it, dude. Pain is relative. The experiences and trials are relative. The pain that you've experienced and the trials that you've experienced are just as painful and just as hard for you as the ones that I've gone through. That's the interesting.
Life is custom tailored to what we need. Life is custom tailored to specifically what that soul needed to go through. And it's all the same. Like he says, relative to that person. That's a really good point. Chad, this has been just super awesome. And we have a few more minutes. What I'd like to do is, we've heard all this crazy trials and overcoming these things, but you guys have gone through some crazy stuff, but now you have a super awesome business. You have a super awesome brand. tell us the victory, tell us a little bit about your business, what you've overcome, and show what really can happen. And then let's close it out.
We decided to scale it. We didn't know what we were doing, and that was a whole other level of
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Nobody knows what they're doing. Don't get it twisted.
It's like, one day at a time, and on every level you experience more pain and stress and struggle, and then level and level. And up until now, we got I think we got maybe 14 people in the company.
I definitely can say we love what we do.
Yeah.
That's the most important part. You love what you do.
My main thing with the business now is I want to change people's lives. I want to use this to let people know that I didn't know what I was doing, and come on board and let me help you and change your life.
Creating more leaders.
Yeah. What's funny about that mindset of actually where you've transcended the need to become rich and wealthy and you've transcended that need, is the actual thing that's going to bring you to that next level. Like the fact that you've overcome the need to become rich and wealthy, and you're in this to be a leader and to help people, and that's the thing that's going to make you rich and wealthy, right? So it's just so it goes for me scriptural, where it's like you lose yourself to find yourself kind of thing. It's like you had to go through all of that to a point where nothing mattered anymore but your kids and your family and helping other people, and that's when the blessings pour in.
Well, that's what did it for me with the HVAC, was going to help somebody who was like distraught, cold. And I had this gift now that I could physically make you warm and happy and smile again. That was the icing on the cake for me when I got into heating and air. And now being able to give back, man, like nothing makes me better than happier and feel better than to just be able to give to people and expect nothing in return,
So
just
this
to
is
help.
why I stayed for all those.
Yeah. Vita, you saw you're a seer, right? You can see things that other people can't see. You saw into Chad, and you saw that he has a lot more than the heroin, a lot more than the addiction, and you saw the real thing. And look, you weren't in it for the reward, obviously, but look at the great reward that has come from it. You have a family now, and that's so cool. And Chad, you being able to say, like we can all take from this, the feeling that your mother-in-law, that warmth that when she put her hands on you, and that warmth that came through, like if we can all figure out what our ability is to pass that warmth on to other people, that's all there is. So just, man, Chad, this has been so great. So grateful to have you on.
Everyone's and I got to have told the whole story. It felt good. It felt nice. I enjoyed that.
The power of story is everything. Everything is a story. Literally everything in our lives comes from story. Every product that's here came from a story. Everything exists because of stories and people willing to share them. I remember back in my stand-up comedy days, I was doing stand-up with a Pauly Shore. Do you remember who Pauly Shore? Yeah. And I was sitting with him one night. He's a weird dude, but he's got a story to tell for sure. But the one thing he said is I said, hey, give me some advice I want to be good at stand-up. And he said, nobody cares about nobody cares about your opinion until they care about you. And the only way they can care about you is if you tell your story, because the only thing you have in this world that's unique is your own story. That's the only thing you have. And so the power behind your story, I mean, you should not be afraid ever to share that, because that's going to give you power in this world for good, to take you to levels you never thought possible, because people will connect with you on an authentic level, and everything that you do, it'll mean more to them, and they'll want to be part of it. They'll want to be part of your story. Well, listen, this has been so inspiring and so amazing, and I'm just so happy to have you guys. I would love to come out and meet you guys in person at some point. I'm guessing, I don't mean to be stereotypical, but I'm guessing that your mother-in-law cooks some pretty good food.
All right. I'll go out there with you then.
I wanted to. Trust me, I tried.
We'd love to come out and
All right.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening to another episode of Win Your Mind, Win Your Market. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. We'll see you.
Thanks.